Welcome to Wellness and Wisdom with me, Dr. Nadu Tuakli. Here you can expect to hear conversations about everything women over 40 care about, from optimal wellness and peak performance, from intimacy to travel and finances and more. I will be speaking to interesting women and sometimes men to educate and motivate you to live your best life. If you want to find out more, please head over to my website, drtwakli.com, or subscribe to my blog. You can also read my book, Sex, Sanity, and Sleep. We are in this together. Welcome back to Wellness and Wisdom, where my goal is to cover topics of all kinds of interest to a mature audience. True, as a doctor, I always keep health and wellness in mind, but we're all multidimensional beings. I was not endowed with any talent for the arts, but that doesn't stop me from loving them and enjoying different things. I love to travel, and I love to introduce inspiring people to my audience. People who actually like sharing their stories in an effort to help others. And I am talking to one such person today. Miss Renee Landers will be 72 in a couple of weeks. She's a small business owner as well as an award-winning bodybuilder with a large following on Instagram. So welcome, Renee. Wonderful to have you here. I'm excited.
Thank you, Dr. Twackley. I really appreciate the invitation, and I'm excited to be here also.
So can you give us a short summary of your history, being a single mom and a business owner, how you ended up where you are now?
I'm born and raised in Houston. I've had a small business since I was in my early 30s, and I became a single mom when my son was about 2.5 years old, but I continued my business. It's a commercial building permit expediting service, kind of a unique, very small business. And actually today my son's now taking care of the business so I can enjoy my life and travel the world and talk to people like you and share my story. So I'm grateful for that. But as time went on, during my periods of time while I was, working my business, being a single mom, I was always into fitness. That was sort of a constant with me in one way or another. But as I got a little older, things changed with my body and I started having some back challenges. And that was really the beginning of things changing and with me having to make some life decisions about how I was going to move forward and still be successful, taking care of my son, taking care of my business, and taking care of my health. Before then, I was a runner. I ran about 6 miles every morning. I ate healthy. I had a positive mindset, which is so important. But once my son was born, I started running again, and I could get up to about 2 miles running, and then my lower back, I just had excruciating pain. And I tried to deal with it for a while, but eventually I, went to the doctor, and the doctor says, you have some serious back issues, Renee, and you need to stop running. For people who run, those endorphins are everything. And I was just crushed. I was really devastated. But I knew I needed to continue with my fitness somehow. And I really didn't know what my solution was about my back other than what people say, don't do that anymore sort of thing. So I struggled through over the years in my 30s and 40s and still tried to maintain my fitness, which is so important. If you have a business, it's more important to still stay physically fit, and I needed to do all that. So I had a workaround. I did aerobics. I did some weightlifting, just anything I could to keep moving. I'm kind of an energetic person, and I needed to burn off that energy anyway. So I just did the best I could. I love to dance, so I danced some, but at some point, no matter what I was doing, I had this pain, and sometimes I would just drop to the ground. It's just like I couldn't handle it. So the years went by and it got so bad, I started thinking I might be in a wheelchair. I might have to figure out how to run my business without being able to walk. I started accumulating crafts that I could do sitting, like making bracelets and things like that. So different from me because I'm all about moving around. But I had to rethink this. How am I going to survive? How am I going to take care of my son? And so on. Fortunately, at 58, I found a wonderful neurosurgeon here in Houston, and I did end up having a lower lumbar fusion. And this doctor, that's all he does, these little tiny incisions in your lower back, and my L1 and S5, or is it S1 and L5? I get those mixed up. Anyway,
L5,
I have a lower
S1.
lumbar. L5, S1. Thank you. Thank you. So that fusion, I have these two titanium, rods in my lower back. Screws. Yes, I have screws in my lower back. And the doctor was very positive, and he said, Renee, get your rehab, go back to doing your normal life. Now my restrictions were no more running, and he did not recommend yoga because that might pull the fusion. Those were really the only two restrictions he had. So I said, okay, I'm going to do that. And I was excited but scared because most people don't get that kind of authorization from their doctors after back surgery. But this doctor was really positive about it. And so I got my rehab done, and I'm getting close to 59, getting close to 60. I haven't really come up with a solid fitness program. I'm a little scared because I had this back surgery and everything. But finally, when I got closer to 60, and then menopause was kicking in for me at the same time, I decided, okay, I got to get control of this. I want to be strong. I want to have a strong core. I want to be able to play with my grandkids, which my daughter-in-law was expecting at that time. I've got to do something. So I went to Baylor, and some wonderful doctors put me on hormone replacement therapy, some spectacular doctors. This doctor actually introduced me to my personal trainer 12 years ago, and he's still training me today. And I just feel so grateful because Dustin Jackson is his name, and he knows how to train people with injuries. He worked for the Texans for years. He has a master's in kinesiology and dietetics, and he knows how to deal with people who are injured. And it was great. And this was all within a 5-mile radius of where I live. It couldn't be more wonderful.
Convenient. Yeah.
Oh, it was fantastic.
Did you have any other health challenges?
The only thing I had years before, I had terrible migraine in my 30s. But by the time I was, getting close to 60, they were minimized. But those were my big things, really. Just the back thing was my biggest thing. I've had I broke a toe once. I've got a little joint pain, but not really anything any more significant.
Nothing major. Now,
Yeah, nothing major.
Everyone who knows me knows that I believe that every woman over 50 should be on hormones unless there's a medical reason not to be. Kind of like a flu shot. It's recommended, but the choice is yours. So how old were you when you started to take hormones?
60 years old, because when I started going to the doctors at Baylor, that was my age. I knew that 60, it's like I wasn't feeling good. I knew that I was normally an energetic woman. I mean, really, my memory wasn't right. I remember actually going to a neurologist about my memory during that time, and I think it was really nothing more than menopause.
Menopause, right.
Yeah, it really was. And I was fearing that I was losing my memory. So 60 years old is when I started, and I'm still taking it today. And I feel that it has done so much for my quality of life, honestly.
Good for you.
And I'm not planning on stopping.
Did you notice a difference as soon as you started taking the hormones?
It took time. I would say over a 6-month period, something like that. I don't remember exactly how long because it's been so long, but I just know everything sort of leveled out. And of course, in the beginning, they have to sort of tweak it to get the right formula down, right? And Kara started me on the gel. I just rub it on my skin. Who knows how much sort of thing. But over time, he figured it out, and I got my blood work done, as often as he needed me to do it. And I still get my blood work twice a year today. And finally, we got the formula down, something I could live with. Another thing would be that insurance often does not pay for this stuff. I mean, they should. They're absolutely, it helps us so much. But they don't. So my doctors came up, I'm into being, frugal with my money. And so we found that the best thing was, he prescribed at a compounding pharmacy to have my testosterone, and it's an injectable. I do myself once a week, a teensy bit, and estradiol cream, and I get those at the compounding pharmacy. Yes. Right. And it lasts forever. And so that it was the most economical for me and the most convenient too. So I'm totally happy. I'm just so grateful that happened in my life, because so many women are missing out. I feel like they are missing out, and they're afraid because of old ideas from 20 and 30 years ago. So I'm a witness.
Yeah,
yes,
but
absolutely.
It also depends if you bump into the right doctor, right? Because
absolutely.
If you don't know what you don't know.
That's right. And so many doctors don't know. These doctors are into infertility and things like that at Baylor. So they have a specialty, and it's unique for women to be taking testosterone. I mean, that's not something everybody does, but these doctors are leaders in their field there at Baylor. So I knew I was in good hands, and I was thrilled. And side effects, there's no side effects for me with any of this stuff. And, I don't look like a man. I got a little muscle, but, I'm not going to look like a man from taking testosterone.
Right. So you started working out and
Yes.
how did you get into bodybuilding?
I never planned on that. My thought was, I just want to be fit. Whenever Dustin started training me, it was just like, okay, I'm 60. I want to feel good. I want to have a strong core. So he just put me on some regular exercises, that I did with him at the gym 2 or 3 days a week. And I just sort of lived my life. I had no intentions of being a bodybuilder. That was never in my thoughts. But years went by, 1 year, 2 years, and I'm didn't realize it, but I'm sort of a competitive person, I guess, with myself mostly. And I'd say, what else can I do, Dustin? I'm coming here. I'm lifting the weights. What can we do differently? What can I do? I didn't want to do sports that I might get injured, things like that. So he said, I can see you on stage. And I said, well, what does that mean? And he said, bodybuilding. I said, I don't even know really what that means, but I did some research and, this was like when I was 62 or 63. Oh, you have to put on the sparkly bikini, skimpy bikini, and get on stage in front of a bunch of strangers. I said, I can't do that. There's just no way. And I said, no, I can't. That's just crazy. What would people think? I can't even imagine that. And so this went on for several years. He was never pushy, but he always said, you can do it, Renee. And every year I would get stronger. Now I weighed about 15 to 20 pounds more then than I do now. So my body did change whenever I changed my attitude, I guess, about things. So I did slowly start losing some weight once actually what happened was I went on a trip with a girlfriend. We went to Germany and we traveled and we came back and I saw these photographs of us and I saw me and I saw a sort of a round, plumpish woman, and I thought, oh no, I can do better than that. That's not the Renee that I know I have inside of me. I can do better than that. There's a different Renee in there. So when I came back from that trip and I saw those pictures, I told Dustin, okay, I'm ready to make some changes. I'm doing all this weightlifting, but I know I can look different. And so, I want to lose a few pounds. And he said, okay, so we got to work. Then that's whenever I dialed in my nutrition and I started paying attention to my food. I've been logging my food for years. I'm big into, documenting and I do it on my Fitbit. It's nothing fancy, but I started paying attention to what I was eating and I set a goal to lose 1 pound when I started this, 1 pound. And I set that on my Fitbit, 1 pound. And I worked and I lost 1 pound. And then I set a goal to lose 1 pound. And I worked on it and I lost another pound. And I did this constantly for over a four and a half month period. And I lost 10 pounds doing this 1 pound at a time thing. So I just feel like it's overwhelming when people say, I've got to lose 50 pounds or whatever. So my philosophy is just 1 pound at a time. And that's what I did. That was the beginning of me saying, I can look different. I don't have to accept that, 60-something-year-old woman, I'm going to be a little round and, a little pudgy no matter what. I thought that. I believed that for a long time, but it's not true. You can control this. It's really kind of science and math, and it's your attitude. And so anyway, I felt great. And once I did that, people at the gym were noticing too. Now, I don't go to a big fancy gym. It's a small gym, but people were noticing that I was changing, even though I'd been working out for years. What I ate made a big difference. So as that happened, I started thinking, well, maybe I could do this competition. I look a little different. So it was more in my radar as he kept mentioning it. Then when COVID hit, that made a big difference. That was an impact for everyone. And for me, first I felt like, it was going to control my life. I can't go to the gym. I can't work out. People were talking about, gaining 10 pounds and all this kind of stuff. I said, oh no, I'm not. That is not going to happen. We have control over how we react to our circumstances. And that's what I decided. And I doubled down during COVID is what I say. And I said, I'm not going to let this get to me. I was grateful. Dustin actually came to my house. I have a big patio in the back. And he trained me and a few of our other gym friends during the time when the gyms were closed. So I could stay on track pretty much. I mean, we didn't have the big machines, but it was a way of being in control of your circumstances as best you can and reacting in a positive way. So that worked out great. Yeah. And I didn't gain any weight during COVID. That did not happen. And then as I got to be like 67, 68, COVID's still going on. And that's when I decided, okay, I told Dustin, before I turn 70, I am going to compete. And I never planned on it, but I started seeing that, I have the potential. Even though I was afraid to do it, I said, I'm going to do it. Why not? And I was scared, but I made a decision. I found a show, and the process happened, over time. So at 69, I did my very first competition. I met so many interesting people, and I really feel like I just sort of had I've had the time of my life, never knowing that this could happen. It was a big game changer for me. I'm grateful that I was able to make this happen. So it was really exciting.
So when you started competing at 69, what would you say was your biggest challenge? Was it mental or social?
There was some social part just from the standpoint that you have to eat a little differently. But I would just say in general, it was just getting over the fear of getting on stage. That's a pretty scary thing to do at my age, and
with no clothes on.
With no clothes on. I mean, skimpy clothes on. That was scary. It really was. But I needed to try it. And I kept it quiet during my prep, where you're getting ready for the show. It was about a 4-month period. Not really long enough, really, but it was a new thing to me. And, I had to start somewhere. It was a wonderful experience in the end, but it was scary when it was happening. And I don't know. I just feel like it's really one of the best things I could do, even though I was scared as hell. Getting up on stage, but it was okay. I got through it, and then I did it 8 more times after that over a 2-year period. That's the beginning of the rest of my best life that started in my late 60s, and it's still continuing today. I'm thrilled, and I am so grateful. And thank you for giving me a chance to tell my story about it.
That's very inspiring. So you've done 9 competitions so far, and you have some competitions planned for this year?
I will be competing in the summer. I'm a member of a global bodybuilding organization. That's a federation, and that's where I competed my last show last summer, and I earned my pro card. I have pro status. Now, another bigger federation is called NPC. More people compete in that. But at any rate, I competed in several of those shows. You fly to all over the place to compete in these things. I just decided when I came back to Houston after my last competition with NPC that I wanted to find a local show where I didn't have to fly and carry my food with me. And I wanted some hardware. They call it hardware whenever you win something. And so luckily, my GBO people that I had competed with in the years past, they were going to have a show. And as it turned out, everything just kind of fell into place. And I drove to Beaumont, which is about an hour and a half drive from here. And there was a show. It just worked out. Everything fell into place. I was able to qualify. I earned my pro card after the second show. It gives you some status. You might, and I would compete as a pro athlete rather than as an amateur. And so this next summer when I compete with my GBO group, it will be competing with other pros. And so they call it my pro debut. So I'll be doing my pro debut this next summer. So that will be my next one. Now, one thing I do also, since I started all this, is I became a sponsored athlete from Angel Competition Bikinis. They make these sparkly bikinis that we all wear. And so I get to walk in their fashion shows. And so that's something I'm doing. In 2 weeks, I'll be walking in my 5th bikini fashion show, and they are in conjunction with bodybuilding shows. So there'll be a bodybuilding show in Columbus, the Arnold. That's like the Arnold Schwarzenegger annual big competition. So the Angel people, I'll be going with them, and we'll be walking. And it's a women's empowerment thing more than anything else, because it's not a competition. And women really from all over the world, all walks of life, all ages, although I'm the oldest, will be walking in that. So it's an opportunity for women to kind of strut their stuff. Maybe they're not ready to compete. And the big thing is you just meet so many awesome women, like-minded. You know, that's the thing. We all think alike, and there's no judgment. So that's another fun thing I've been doing over the past year or two is walking in these shows, like at the Olympia. They had a master's show, and I was actually the featured athlete in San Antonio there. So it's women's empowerment and raising up women of all ages. And that's the thing. You're never too old. I feel like we give up on ourselves way too young. I say we. I didn't. But when people get 40 and 50, they think they're too late.
Women in general.
Oh, that's right. Women in general, we become invisible. That's something I hear a lot. Women feel invisible because, you might have raised your kids already. You're just not as important. And this is a platform like me today doing this. I mean, I'm far from invisible. In fact, my goal is to spread the word that you don't have to be invisible, but you have to take
Right.
charge. And anyway, I kind of go crazy about the whole thing, but I'm having the time of my life. I'm not invisible, but I've chosen this. It's a choice I made. And I
Right.
feel like people need to know everyone can make that choice. You can be quiet and inside, or you can get out there and see the world and interact.
So let's talk about aging since we're on the subject. In your case, you celebrate your age because that's partly what made you such a celebrity. But what about the rest of us who are getting more and more alarmed as the numbers crank up in the third quarter? What can you tell us?
I'll tell you, I also didn't share my age for years. And friends who know me, I was always sort of on the down low about my age. I didn't want to share it. So I remember being embarrassed about my age, and I wasn't proud of it. But we have to love ourselves where we are today. Whatever worth it is, it's whether it's to get fit or accomplish something that you've been wanting to for years, write a book or whatever. You need to not limit yourself. And that's that word limit. My mother used to say that they're limited. People limit themselves just because of their age. So
They do.
forget about that. I mean, just throw that away. My mother said, flush it down the toilet. I mean, it's so unimportant. So I think that's what we have to do first is say, this age thing, just forget about that. What do I want to do with the rest of my life, however old I am? I think we have to really give ourselves that permission to say, I'm worth it. I'm totally worth it. I'm going to put myself first. Women as caregivers, we're taking care of the world so often, and it's time to make ourselves first. So as you're in your 40s, 50s, 60s, whatever, it's time to be number one. And I like to say, treat yourself, love yourself like you love your best friend. How would you pamper your best friend? What would you do to take care of your best friend? And that's who you are. You need to be for yourself is treat yourself like your best friend and give yourself permission to shine. Get out of your comfort zone. Those are the things to do. And fitness is a good way to do it. I feel so much better now that I made these decisions to take care of my health. I feel great, and I don't think about, I'm getting older,
I
but
look great.
I'm not getting older, so it's great.
So that's how you make the most of every day and stay so positive about aging. What do you consider about old speak? I remember you talking about no old speak
That's
around
right.
me.
Yes. So very good question. Whenever you get around people, I'm around 60 and 70 years old people all the time. Whenever people start talking about their aches and pains, and I don't verbalize that into the universe, I have aches and pains. I have things, going on. But I don't talk about it. So no old speak. Don't put that out into the universe. If there's a group chatting and they want to talk about their aches and pains, personally, I do not buy into that. When people post something on Facebook about I'm getting old, I say I reject that. And so that's how I feel. Don't talk about it. Sure, we got it. Don't talk about it. No one else wants to really hear it. And we don't need to verbalize it, other than if we want sympathy. But so no old speak, don't talk about it. And to me, think positive. We have lots to live for, and just no negative self-talk. That's the most important thing. Talk good stuff about yourself.
So let's talk about diet. What exactly do you eat? And what does meal prep mean?
First of all, I've evolved into this what I eat now thing, and I'm a pescatarian. Now, this is not a cultish thing. I'm not a vegan. I'm not a vegetarian. I was a vegetarian for a long time, but I couldn't get enough protein for me. So I'm a low FODMAP, which means I don't eat cruciferous vegetables or legumes because they're too hard on my stomach. I eat very little dairy, very little wheat, but I eat fish. Seafood is my main source of protein, and eggs. A lot of egg whites, eggs. I love sardines, tuna, cod, just all these kinds of food. That's really what I eat. Now, I go to Costco and buy a lot of my food actually because they have big quantities. And so that's the first thing. What I eat is mostly omega things. I have great eyesight. Apparently my eye doctor, I'm in the 95 percentile for my age. And a lot of it has to do with all those omegas that I'm eating. That's what my eye doctor said. So I'm a pescatarian. You don't have to be a pescatarian. But what's important is to eat enough protein. And the rule of thumb, you don't have to be a bodybuilder or anything, is to get at least 1 gram of protein for every pound of body weight every day. or your target weight. So for me, let's say I'm 120 pounds right now. So I want to get at least 120 grams of protein every day. And I do that by eating about 5 small meals a day. That's what works for me. And I might, without going into great detail, I have egg whites and an egg in the morning. Before I work out, I'm going to have a little carbs. I'm going to have maybe some oatmeal or some rice or something like that. I eat a little protein and carbs after I work out, and basically space my meals out, over the course of the day, so I get some protein all the way to the end of the day. I'm not a big believer in these bars. I will eat a protein bar if I need to, and it's good to have protein powder, but those are like if you don't get your protein from the natural source. IG page, I have a lot of stuff, some little things about my food. But to me, meal prep is one of the most important things you can do to assure your success with your health. Bodybuilders do it a lot, but you don't have to be a bodybuilder to do this. And for me, this works because I'm single. If people have families, they may have to do it a little differently. But basically, I set aside, a morning, a week, maybe on the weekends, and I do meal prep. And so I cook all of my different types of fish and stuff like that. And I put them in little containers. Everybody doesn't have to be this meticulous, but if you're trying to really get serious, it helps to weigh your food. Then you see how many grams of everything, whatever, you can be picky or not. So the main thing I do is do the meal prep. Like right now in my fridge, I have probably 20 little containers of about 140 grams of cod and different kinds of fish, shrimp. I eat shrimp too. And I have those in there, and then I'll cook rice and do the same thing with it, and some kind of greens, green beans or asparagus, something green. And of course, I love salads. And so that is what I try to do on the weekends so that during the week, it's easy. And if I get hungry, I'm not just opening the pantry and grabbing something that's bad for me. I can go to that protein source. Protein will satisfy you longer, and it will, so eating donuts for breakfast, that's just like the baddest thing you could do in my world, because you're going to be hungry in 30 minutes. But anyway, so meal prep is an important thing if people are trying to get serious about their fitness. From what people do, a lot of times their families get healthier because they're going to eat some of that healthy food too. I'll use a lot of spices. I do use oil. I use olive oil. I do a lot of pan searing of my fish with a little bit of olive oil. I'm Italian, so olive oil is like, that's what you eat. And coconut oil is great too. So that's really what meal prep is. It's preparing your food and being prepared and thinking about it ahead of time. It's really what people do in life. It's about planning for your success. It's another way of organizing your life. So that's important.
Now, I have a little concern about your cholesterol based on how you're describing your diet. How is your cholesterol?
My cholesterol is pretty good. I'm a little bit on the high side. Very good observation, by the way. But it's a minimum amount. Now, it's kind of runs in my family too, but I'm like probably 10 over what it's supposed to be. But I'm not on I'm not taking anything.
Statins.
I'm not taking statins. I'm not anti-statin, but I'm not ready to start that.
Well, statins wouldn't be good for your muscles anyway.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Another good reason not to take them. I have a little bit of cholesterol, but it's pretty low. I wish I could tell you the exact number, but I know I'm like 10 over what it's supposed to be. But that's not the worst thing that could happen, I guess.
And do you have any specific advice for people who want to lose weight, who are serious about losing weight?
First of all, increase your protein. But people have this wrong conception that you have to starve yourself to lose weight. Well, you got to eat to lose weight. That's really just the reality of it. I try to shoot for a gallon of water a day. Hydration is so important. Not everybody can reach that. And put a little flavoring in if you have to. Cardio is okay. You can do too much cardio and you will just tear down your muscle and you won't maintain your muscle. So lifting weights, to me, that's the fountain of youth that I discovered, is lifting those weights, and don't overdo it so that you get yourself hurt when you start. That's what people do too. They go crazy and they do too much. Take baby steps. And there's lots of information online about it. I'm not a coach or a trainer. I tell people I don't want to be that. I leave that to the professionals. People, reach out to me if you want to on Instagram and ask me any questions. But in general, I'd say if you can afford to get a trainer, fantastic, because that's going to take you to the next level sooner, wherever you are. If you're just starting, if you've been doing it for years, whatever. I feel like my investment in my trainer is like the best investment I can make in my health because he keeps me on track. It's accountability and they know what they're doing. Get someone who's qualified,
Right.
not someone who lost 50 pounds and thinks they can be a trainer.
So does Dustin do online training or he only does in person?
Well, Dustin does not do online training, and he really isn't even taking any new clients because he's so busy. He's been doing this for
Right.
so many years, and he actually has another business too. So he doesn't really take on new people. It's really worth it if you can afford a trainer. But there's lots of different methods, and there's lots of good stuff online that you can find that can help you too.
Now, I have come to the conclusion that the only way to avoid crepey skin is to have muscle under it. And therefore, some kind of weight training, even if you don't want to be a competitive bodybuilder, some kind of weight training is important. What do you think about that?
I agree with that 100%. I mean, when people talk about, oh, I've got this loose skin or, can I spot reduce my tummy there's no such thing as spot reducing. And I definitely believe that you're hydrating well and you're lifting weights. It's going to fill in over time, this skin that looks crepey. I mean, my skin has crepiness. You can't avoid it, but I
Comes
definitely
with age.
yeah, it's going to happen. Stay hydrated. And I definitely believe that over time, that's going to help is lifting the weights and progressive overload over time. I've been doing it for 12 years. It doesn't happen overnight. You can do a lot of different treatments that cost a lot of money, but you can also just lift some and eat well.
So finally, let's talk about your exercise program. What sort of exercise program do you have? And how many times a week do you work out?
Okay, those are great, legit questions. I don't do anything magical. Now, I say it's not rocket science, is what I tell people. But I do, from a scientific standpoint. Right now, because I've been competing, I'm lifting weights 5 days a week. Now, I was doing it 3 days a week, and then I increased it to 4. As I'm getting into competitions, I'm working out 5 days a week. So I'm doing 5 days a week right now. Maybe 6 sometimes. It depends on what my goal is, what's happening with my competitions or going to these angel shows or whatever like that. But the average person could probably do 3 times a week, maybe 4, depending on what your goal is. And I do some cardio every day, even on the days off. If you're trying to actually lose some weight, there's steady state. You're not really doing high intensity. You're just doing some ongoing and, I'll do the elliptical or something like that. If you're trying to burn some fat. So anyway, but that would be every day, some kind of cardio, 30 minutes max, every day or as many days as you can. You just do the best you can there. It takes time. It's not going to be overnight. And that's what I tell people. Don't ask me about spot reducing your belly or no, don't even talk about that. That is just a waste of time. Just overall fitness, over time, overall doing the same thing, being consistent. I remember when I was earlier on and Dustin would have me, lifting weights. I'd have the same program. And I thought, this is boring. It's like, can you give me something different to do? Well, the whole thing is doing the same thing is what's going to make the difference in your overall physical appearance. With regards to muscle and all of that. So
Right.
that's what I would say.
Repetition.
Yes, ma'am. Consistency, discipline, repetition. One thing people say a lot, well, how do you get motivated to go to the gym 5 days a week? Well, I'm not always motivated. So that's when the self-discipline kicks in. I'm going to the gym. You don't even think about it. It becomes part of your lifestyle. And
Just do it.
that's right. You just do it. You just do it.
Just do it.
That's right. And that's really the key, I think, is that you're in the routine and you don't even think twice about it. It's your lifestyle and you're looking forward to it because you know it's going to make you feel better. Over time, it's going to make a huge difference.
So do you alternate arm and leg exercises or do you do both when you work out?
Because of my fusion, I don't do a split like that. Because of that, Dustin has me on a sort of an overall full body workout when I do. And it's not anything as intense as some people because I can't do anything to compromise my fusion. So I don't do heavy squats and certain things. So we have kind of a workaround, but I don't do the norm, but we do focus like on certain areas. If I'm getting ready for a competition, maybe I'm going to do more leg and heavier and that progressive overload. That's what we work towards as we get closer to competing. And that's what anyone can do if you're not competing too. You're trying to do progressive overload so you can stimulate that muscle and everything over time.
And how much do you bench press?
I have no idea. Because you know what? I don't bench press, but that's a good, other people have asked me. I don't even pick up a bar. I do the Smith machine with Dustin watching me. That's the bar where you don't just lift it and move it around. So because of my injuries, I never can do any bench presses. I don't ever get on the back and I don't do those. But other people have asked, or they want to know the size of my biceps. I have no idea. That's not important to me, but yeah, that's a good question. But I don't bench press because of my fusion.
And are push-ups a necessary part of the routine or not?
Well, I am doing some push-ups. I do those intermittently depending on what's going on with my abs. I usually was doing abs every day, some version of abs. But I like to do push-ups. I do those a lot.
So they are necessary then.
Well, once you kind of get your abs stabilized, you don't have to really do it as much. It becomes more of just a habit than anything else. But really the nutrition, when you start eating your protein and dialing down, that's going to kind of shrink those areas that people can't seem to lose. It all sort of comes together over time and paying attention to the nutrition. There's a saying, abs are made in the kitchen. That's what they say because it's what you're eating. It's like 80 or 90% of what you're eating. It sure is.
I guess I need to get in the kitchen.
Get in that kitchen, girl.
Well, Renee, it's been wonderful having you here. I hope you'll come back again and give us some more tips and let us know how this year's competitions went. Any parting words, do's and don'ts that people should have when planning their endeavors in retirement in general?
Well, okay.
You've given us a lot of life lessons.
Okay, well, I will give you a couple of them. Thank you for mentioning about retirement. One of the best things I suggest people do at any age is start planning for your retirement and go to a financial advisor. Now, I'm not here to promote anyone, but there are several good ones out there. One of the best things I did whenever my son was just a baby is I went to a financial advisor. It doesn't matter how much money you have. If you go to a reputable one, they're going to take care of you. I don't know if I can mention who I use, but there's plenty of good reputable ones out there. And that made a big difference for me. Actually, what happened was a boss I had was killed, in the 80s whenever my son was just, 5 years old. And after his death, I thought I have got to get serious about this. I'm a single mom. And I went to a financial advisor. And because of that moment, and where I am today, I'm able to be financially stable. So I would just say, go to a financial advisor. I don't care if you can't afford $50, a month. Go see them because they can point you in the right direction. So I would say that is so important. Young mothers, I was a single mom, okay? Single mothers, whatever your situation is, you may not think you have the money to do it. Whatever it is, they'll point you in the right direction. Go to somebody reputable. I actually read a book, Susie Orman. I read her book. She's the one who got me thinking about that too. But anyway, so I would say do that. The rest of it is, you might live a long time. You want to have the best quality of life. And it's about making choices and make them now whenever you're 30 instead of wait until you're 60. But 60 is not too late either. But the sooner you start thinking about your future, the better off you'll be.
Right. Okay. Well, that's great. Thank you so much, Renee. I hope we'll see you again. And thank you for taking the time to come on and talk with us. Congratulations on all your achievements and the hardware. And we're looking for some more hardware. But I think you have made the point that it's not just about the hardware. It's about feeling what you want to do and being fit and enjoying it and enjoying the process and doing whatever you think you can do and want to do, irrespective of your age or what other people might think. So congratulations. I give you kudos.
Thank you so much. And you said it. I agree 100%. And stay positive, always thinking positive and putting out good energy out into the world because it comes back to you. And thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to be here and share. I mean, I really appreciate it. We've got to get the word out that it's really never too late to get fit.
Absolutely. Bye-bye for now. Thank you for joining me today in my podcast with Renee Landers, 72-year-old bodybuilding champion. And I hope you found it interesting. And she is a fund of positivity, as you noticed. Talking about hormones, talking about diet, talking about exercise, talking about attitude, talking about even financial retirement. I really enjoy talking to people in the third quarter who are positive about the next quarter and don't look back and really just enjoy life. So thank you for joining me. And as always, I hope to see you on the next podcast. If you haven't subscribed yet, please push the like button and subscribe. And we'll see you next time. Take care for now. Bye-bye.